Hi, I'm Daniel.
And I'm Selena.
We're from OTI Consulting, and right now we're sitting inside Bob Pike's office in Minneapolis.
Yes.
And we've just spent an incredible 3 days with Bob Pike in Fort Lauderdale, where Selena and I attended the CTT boot camp. And we're very happy to have Bob with us, Bob, the CTT guru himself, next to us. And well, we just want to ask Bob a few questions about CTT.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bob, thank you for a great workshop and for hosting us here in Minneapolis.
It was my pleasure, and you should know it is 17 degrees below zero Fahrenheit here. With the wind chill, it's like 30, and they love it as long
We
as they're
love
only
it.
here
And it's
for 2
snowing
days.
outside.
It's great.
Yeah, as long as it's just for 2 days. So,
Yes.
anyhow, what is your first question?
Yeah, Bob, we're just wondering, you must have done hundreds of thousands of this program all over the United States and probably around the world as well.
Mhm.
What are some of the things that you have learned about trainers?
Well, one of the things about trainers is obviously someone who is a trainer is very passionate about really helping people. And I think that one of the key things is that we have to really create a focus that says, as a trainer, I not only want to help you as the participant, but also I need to make sure that I'm really adding value and making a difference for the organization. Because the purpose of training is to deliver results. It is
That's
not about
That's true.
the smile sheets that we hear so often at the end. It's about, is it adding value, making a difference, does it get results after the training takes place?
That's right.
And I think that some trainers have caught that message, and I think a lot of trainers are still more concerned about the smile sheets than about how are we going to measure the results back on the job. So we need to run training as a business, and that means that we have metrics in place that demonstrate that there is a return on the investment that organizations are making.
That's great. I think absolutely agree. What would you think? How would you advise us? And for those listening in, how do we help to shift the trainers' mindsets from really looking at the smile sheets and moving them to really evaluating and looking at results and metrics in an organization?
Well, I think that what we do is we start by saying, if I were running this as a business, how would I measure it? And in business, we're constantly looking at, what's the return on investment? If I'm going to invest this amount of money, well, in order to do that, before we do any kind of training project, and actually I would even change the terminology to say what we should be looking at doing is improving performance. So we're looking at performance improvement initiatives. And so in my mind, it's really looking at executives and managers and supervisors and saying, okay, why would you want to do this anyway? So somebody calls you up and says, gee, my people are really stressed, do stress management. Well, instead of doing stress management, say, okay, well, what's causing them to be stressed?
Yeah.
And who
That's good.
cares? I mean, who cares?
That's
Let them
good.
be stressed. They're getting a paycheck. There are other people not getting a paycheck. But if you don't want to, what we ought to be asking ourselves is, okay, what's going on that's causing them to be stressed? Because, for example, we know that over 50% of stress among managers and executives comes from non-productive behavior. Well, if you teach stress management techniques apart from productivity improvement techniques, you're actually teaching managers to live with being non-productive. So I am non-productive, but it no longer bothers me. Well, we ought to be talking about productivity improvement, and so my whole thing is having that pain conversation, because if a manager realizes the cost or consequence of people continuing the way we are, now there's a way to measure that. And now suddenly it's not about pleasing people, and it's not about giving them knowledge and skills. It is about solving a problem where we now can measure very specifically in business terms, if we do not solve this, this is what it is costing us.
Good.
Okay,
Good.
great.
So to me, that's the key.
Good.
Okay, great. So how would a trainer really help an organization do that?
Well, I think that one of the things as trainers, and frankly, I think that now, more than ever, we are in a great time period of pushing back as trainers, because what I'm really saying is, I'm going to show you how not to do training. Because most managers view training not as an investment, but as a cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're taking valuable people away from their jobs, and now I'm not accomplishing my department's goals. And so managers tend to see training as an interruption,
Yeah.
or it's a reward. Daniel, you're doing a great job. I'm sending you to training. So now it's a reward. Who cares what he learns? He's doing a good job. I'm rewarding him. Or it's a punishment. Daniel, you're doing a lousy job. I'm sending you training. Do not collect pass go. Do not collect $200. Or Daniel, we're more productive when you're not around. So here, I'm sending you to training. Matter of fact, here's a catalog. I'm sending you a lot of training. We'll see you at the holiday party at the end of the year.
Send him to freeze in Minnesota.
Yes, in other words, I can't fire you.
Yeah.
And in a lot of organizations and in a lot of countries today, just because of all of the governmental regulations, once somebody's hired, it is very difficult to fire them. And oftentimes we find that productivity improvement, that a part of the component is selection. Are we hiring the right people, or are we so eager to fill head count that we hire people and we go, oh, training will fix them?
Yeah.
Or sometimes what people need is just-in-time coaching. They don't need to be taken away from their job. There's just this thing they need right now. For example, when I was writing my first book, The Creative Training Techniques Handbook, I was typing it myself because I was doing it out of all of the seminar experiences. And this was before mouses. So this was like in 1983, I had a state-of-the-art K Pro 2 personal computer. It only weighed 50 pounds. I dragged it through airports for 6 months. And one day I was typing, brilliant 9-inch monochrome monitor, and I was typing, and one of the lines was too long. And we didn't have mouses in those days, so I cursored over. I did a hard carriage return. Well, that made the next line too long. Over. And so my assistant came in, and she was watching for me. She said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I changed this paragraph, and so I need to smooth it out before I send it to my editor. And she said, well, why don't you just do this? And she put the cursor in the center of the paragraph, and she hit Control Q. And the paragraph went, whew. And I said, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I hit the reformat command. Well, I became like 30% more productive because I now knew there was a reformat command. But if she had said, Bob, we have a one-day how to get the most out of WordStar program, I would have said, I don't have time to go to a one-day program. Sure. I didn't need training. I needed some just-in-time coaching. Well, a lot of times managers don't know how to coach. They don't know that coaching is their role.
Yeah.
They don't know the 5 roles that a coach can fulfill. So if anything, instead of training the employee, maybe what we need to do is train the manager on how to coach. And that would, again, create a lot of productivity improvement. So I think that we have to be much more conscious about that, and it's having that pain conversation on the front end.